Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host Sean Francis. I am Brian Altunian, and today's guest is many things: an influencer, a spiritual guide, a caretaker, a nurse, a mom, all these great things. And she's going to be sharing with you her new book called Your You. So stay tuned for another episode of Just Two Dads. Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Altunian along with Sean Francis. This is, we've now joked about this. This is episode 160 something, 160 episodes. We started this podcast about 3.5 years ago as dads of special needs children. And in our work in financial services, we were doing presentations for folks, and we kept encountering amazing people who were doing things for the community, for our community that we had never heard about. We didn't know anything about the resources. So we decided to have a podcast to give those folks an avenue, an opportunity to talk about what they're doing and how it impact our community. And along the way, we have encountered amazing people who are doing great things. As Sean says all the time, those things that affect the general population affect the special needs population times 10. We still find that there are a lot of things that we've encountered where we find great people, great things to be talking about that are going to be impactful. And today's guest is along those lines. Before we get to her, you're going to love this episode. Before we get to her, just want to thank you if you're catching us. We're doing special recording of today's episode, so we're going to be releasing this on Facebook. Still put your comments on there, though they won't be live, but we will be on our YouTube channel at Just Two Dads 8081. Is that what it is, Sean? Just Two Dads 8081. We wanted to stand out from any other dads out there.
I believe so.
8081. I don't know where that came from, but we're going to go with it. If you're catching us on WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands or on any podcast outlets, wherever you hear podcasts, thanks for making this part of your listening day. I want to thank Sean Hall for doing all of our graphic and support work, and we call him our producer. He puts our podcast together. He's in the Hawaiian Islands, probably still sleeping at the moment. And the folks at Billy Footwear who have been our sponsors and friends of our show for a long time. So catch Billy Footwear. The story about Billy Price, the founder, is phenomenal. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Sean to say hello and then welcome our guest. Hey, buddy, how you feeling today?
Pretty good. Well blessed and full of gratitude, and looking forward to today's episode. Our guest is a nurse, mom, a social media content creator, and she's got tons of followers and is a published author with a new book entitled Your You. Her book and daily social media posts are filled with inspiration and light. And welcome to the show, Elizabeth Trenary. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It's good to have you.
You know, like most people that are heroic there you go. Like most people that are heroic in any way, shape, or form, you probably don't see yourself as a hero, but we feel otherwise. So that's the first thing. 2, all heroes have superpowers, and those powers come from a hero's origin. So why don't we start with that? Tell us a little bit about where you're from, physically, spiritually, mentally, and how you got to be where you be, and how the book came to be. Yes.
Well, I be from Oklahoma, born in Texas. Right now, I'm in Florida, living my best delusional life as a hospice nurse. I've done that for a while. Did babies and vaginas for a while, did hospice, and traveled around, ended up in Florida. Basically, I think just to finish my book is what I'm kind of just learning about myself. I mean, I don't know another reason why I ended up here. A lot of lessons maybe, but I think the final result was it just pushed me to finish my book. So that's what got me here. Yeah. Spiritually, that's like an 8-hour conversation. A little witchy woo, a ton of law of attraction. I follow stoicism, everything positive. I don't have tolerance for negativity or or just the crankiness of society and people's just it's not fair. Yeah, everything's fair. Everything is fair and works out. So I don't know, kind of a different viewpoint, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting because in hospice, which is end of life communication, it's or end of life guidance, if you will. It's interesting to have a positive. You probably don't see, or I don't know. I should ask you: do you see many people that have that sort of positive outlook on life?
In hospice, I've always loved it, but it's always been the families are the ones that need the push, the education, the hand holding of this is going to be okay. It's the patients that are like, let's go. Let's go. It's like they innately know that this is their rebirth into something just incredible and magical, that whatever they believe in, whatever religion, whatever spiritual beliefs they believe in, like they know that is what's coming. So it's like their rebirth into that. Mm-hmm. It's the families that are like, I don't know about that, but I think that's with any situation that someone doesn't want to let go of something, that they're going to hold tight. No, I don't want that to change, because people are terrified of change. But with hospice patients, they're just like, let's embrace this change. It's going to be amazing.
Well, that's not something that everybody jumps up to do. So let's tell us a little bit about, how and where you mentioned where, but how you were raised, who you became, and like that led you to that, because that is such selfless work. How did you become a hospice nurse?
Gosh, how I was raised. I was raised by a brilliant mother who was too smart for her own being, maybe, and had a lot of, I don't know, demons, we can call them. She was depressed the majority of her life. Later, towards the end of her human experience, we found out that she was bipolar. She had borderline personality disorder. So she was sick in comparison to what society would be like, yeah, she's damaged. So she fought a lot of internal battles. And we had a crazy dynamic relationship where I know she loved me, but I don't think she knew how to express that the way that I needed it. Right. Which is of no fault to hers. I mean, just like we all need different things, or we have, different expectations. We can't expect other people to give them to us without us knowing or being able to express what we need. So yeah, we had a very, very rocky, I hate throwing around the word traumatic, but there was some trauma in there. But she later took her own life. We're not sure if it was through overdosing on pills or if it was, purposefully intended to do. But yeah, it took, I thank you. It sucks not to have a mom, but I'm not mad at her anymore. And that is like the coolest feeling in the whole wide world. When I finally was able to go, God, that wasn't her fault. Like, yeah. She wasn't built for this environment. Her thoughts or they were too much for her, and that's okay. That's okay.
How old were you?
I was in my late 20s, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I've stopped holding on to like times and everything because it's been maybe 15, 20, maybe longer. I don't remember. I just remember the day that I was able to go, oh, this wasn't done to me. And she needed to do that for her to fulfill.
I asked how old you were because that's a fair amount of evolution for a person to have to take the approach that you did? Because there's no way, because it's obviously you've already described that there's pain and joy that came with the relationship. And for most people, and I think imagine especially for a girl or a woman to lose a mom, it's so easy and natural to have the thought, as you mentioned, that, well, this did happen to me or for me. So having that much evolution, how did you arrive at that point? Because I think that's tremendous.
Oh, don't give me too much credit. Don't give me too much. I went off the deep end. I shut it down for the longest time that it didn't happen. I referred to her as my dead mom. I would not refer to her as my mom. I was like, yeah, my dead mom. I was very flippant about the whole, anything and everything having to do with her. And I chose not to deal with it. I drank so I wouldn't have to feel. I used drugs so I wouldn't have to feel any of those feelings. Because feelings, like, it sucked. It sucked having to, like, come to terms with, I don't have a mom. Like, I don't care how old you are, to say, well, I need my mom, and you don't have that.
Yeah.
It's just like the most helpless feeling out there. And I didn't want to feel any of that. I did not want to feel any of it. So yeah, I masked every feeling I had.
And so what was the catalyst for the transition? Like what happened for you that you gave that up? And
a couple of things. I had been married and divorced, and we had been divorced, my kid's dad, for 11 years. We got divorced for a couple of reasons, but I think the big catalyst was he was a very practicing alcoholic. And he ended up passing away because of his drinking. And that was a good nudge for me, because I was like, well, how selfish am I? I can't leave my children with absolutely no parent. That's selfish. That's really not cool. But I started listening to inspirational stuff. I started listening to Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
I started trying to figure out who I was and why I was doing these things. I mean, I knew it didn't taste good.
Yeah.
I didn't like getting down to 109 pounds or looking just so sick and cachexic, and I didn't like the way my daughter knew something was going on, and she would call me out, and I'd be like, no. And it's so hard to lie constantly like that.
Yeah.
And I started doing shadow work. I started trying to figure out, like, who is this person? Like, what damage or brokenness do I have, and why do I have it? And I realized, well, I have a lot of situations, but I'm not broken. I'm fixable. I'm just a little bent. And so I literally just went deep diving into trying to figure out who I was, and taking off the mask and stop being fake for whatever society wanted me to be, and being true to me. So that's
amazing.
That's kind of the road that got me there.
Some people don't go through that realization until the end of their life, and they start looking back going, well, I missed an opportunity to evolve and make a change. And if I can ask, so you started doing stuff on social media. By the way, I know it was an outlet of what you were going through yourself personally, but what inspired that? How did that all come about?
It started with, obviously, so many random things started during COVID, right? And my daughter would have me do these little dance routines with her, and I was like, your girl does not have that much rhythm anymore, so this is not going to work. And so for the first few, I guess, TikToks or whatever that I did, I wouldn't say anything. I would just mouth these positive speeches from other people because I was like, well, I can't speak on camera. I can't talk to these people. My voice is heinous as it is. Why would anybody want to hear me? So I would just lip sync these positive little affirmations. And then one day I was like, I have something to say.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that, my favorite thing is I'm not pizza and I'm not avocado. Not everybody's going to love me, and that's okay. That's okay. You either, you do and you follow, and I hope that what I say resonates with you, or you don't. And I still hope you have a really good day. Good luck, kind of situation. So,
right. This kind of stuff that you post on social media, were those things that you were taking in and like part of your journal, or like how did that all like, because obviously it's part of your path, your evolutionary path. So how did that happen? Again, I mean, which came first kind of thing, chicken or the egg?
No, it started with everything that I would either listen to or see or read. I needed that. And I was like, man, if I need it, like, what if one other person needs it? And if I can maybe just one person, just one, affect one person and make them go, I'm not broken. I do matter. Like, I don't have to be everything to everybody all the time, but I have to be 110% to me. Then I'm good. And so I just continued with, and still to this day, if I post something, I need it. I need to hear it. So I reiterate it, but I reiterate it. So, maybe Jim down the road or Susie down the hallway, they go, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. Or Brian across country. Like,
yeah,
I think that it's, I just, again, I find it's amazing sometimes as we're, thumbing through social media that we find things that hit us, strike a nerve with us. Some things we laugh at, and a lot of times we'll search for things that we laugh at. Some things that will make us cry, like the soldiers coming home. But your posts always seem to be like so poignant, and maybe that's just because for those that are on an evolutionary path or trying to have confirmation, validation, whatever it is, inspiration, that they seem to hit right at the right time. You have over 40,000 followers on TikTok, and you've only been doing this for a couple of years. I mean, that's kind of amazing. And you post every day. I
do. I didn't used to, and I would get a couple of just the most random DMs that would say, man, thank you. Thank you. I was having a really hard day, or I've had a bad week and I literally wanted to end it. And I'm like, oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. It's a minute out of my life. And I need everything that I say, whether I need it last week or I need it 2 weeks from now. It all means something. And it's all helped me dive deeper into just going, oh, this is me. Like, I actually like me now. I enjoy hanging out with me. I'm the only person that's ever going to start with me and end with me. And I'm pretty legit. And I want everybody or those one or two people who go, thank you. Yeah. To just know, you know what, just one more day, just spend a moment and just know how much you matter.
It's who gets that? It's so awesome that people actually tell you like it matters. A lot of times we all do stuff and like, does anything I do matter? And it's amazing to get kind of that instant feedback from folks, to know that, what you've said something that makes a difference. And now you've taken this beyond the digital realm and into, like a old school. You've written a book. And Sean, I'm sorry if you've got questions. I just sort of like
no. I'm No, I'm good. I'm good.
But so you wrote a book, and so
I wrote a book.
And I know that this has been a long journey for you to get this done, and then you with like really alacrity and focus, you just like you got it finished, and it's for people to know. It's called You're You. We'll get it up on the thing there, sort of see it there. You're You, and it feels like it's an extension of what you've done. But tell us how that all came about and why you decided to write a book.
I started journaling, and then just writing. Like, I think I've always written, but it was just, I wrote. I mean, I thought everybody wrote. And I had it in like 4,000 different journals and notebooks and pieces of random paper that I would just like through the last 4 years of, going through this healing process and my shadow work and trying to figure out like who I really was, like from the beginning. Cause I think like from a young age, like I put on a mask immediately of people pleasing. And then later found out that is like raging manipulation. I was like, well, God, I don't want to be that person. So I had to deep dive into that. And then it was literally around, I think, October that I was like, I'm just going to put these on Google Docs and see what it comes, just see what happens. And I type like this. So it was horrendous trying to watch it all play out. And just day in and day out, when I would get home from work, I would transcribe all these notebooks. And I was like, well, it's just my journal. It's my journal. And I looked at it and I sent it to my dad. And I was like, just, what do you think, Dad? What do you think? And he blew my mind. He was like, this is good. This is like 2 books. And I was like, what? Like you would read it? He was like, no, like this makes you think. That's what you want. And I was like, well, I mean, it's just, I lived it. So it was my brain. It was my brain on paper and my heart on paper. And I got my dad's approval. And I don't care how old you are to get that parental, wow, sugar, you did a good job. And I was like,
yeah, you want to make them proud. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It did something else. It like lit this feeling in me, like I made me proud. Like it was just extra reassurance. I was like, I did this. Like
you mentioned a term earlier, if you can expand on that, shadow work. Yeah,
shadow work. It's a booger. It is. Like it is not for the faint of heart. Because you have to expose that inner you, your you. Of things you don't want to face. Like why do you feel like you need to be a people pleaser? Why do you feel like you need to be a yes person? Or why does certain events trigger you and make you go, oh no, I don't want to deal with that? Or what makes you hermit for weeks at a time and not deal with society? And you have to break that down to literally every step of your life to figure out at what point did you feel that you had to put that mask on or that blanket and cover up and go, I'm not playing today. And when you figure out those triggers, and you cry, there's snot, it's a scene to be reckoned with. But once it's almost like just this inner purge of you being able to like look at yourself at whatever age that it kind of, you could go back to. Like one of mine started at 2 when my mom dropped me in the shower. I remember that. I remember being held down for stitches on my chin. And then I remember her at, maybe I was 6 or 7, her slitting her wrist in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Those scenarios, like, even though you don't remember them, like, your you remembers them. And so it's like, nope, not today, devil. We're not letting in anything that could hurt us.
Interesting.
And so it just, you cloak, you put on masks, you cover feelings, and then you become people pleasing. Because if
So the shadow work is essentially getting to the bare essence of who you really truly are, and depending on your age and experience, that dictates how many layers you have to pull away, how many band-aids, so to speak.
Yeah, like you get completely naked to the soul core to figure out, oh, that's when I felt like I wasn't deserving, or that was the moment that terrified me to let people in because they might leave me.
Yeah.
And once you face those things and then kind of look at that little girl or little boy and go, you're okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to leave you. I've got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
I've done some work, little self-development work. And, a lot of times when those situations happen, when we're that young, we unconsciously make decisions. Like, to your point, you're like, well, I'm not going to let people in. Like, that's what happens. So, and you realize that a lot of the ways that we live our lives have been in response to decisions of some kind that we made when we were 2 and 5 and 7. And,
right.
That's
everything.
Our own internal limiting beliefs. Yeah. All the limiting beliefs we have were developed by some internal decision that we made unconsciously because we didn't really have the ability to sort of process and go. I remember the story about a woman who was 4 and her mother was very sick, and she went out to play in the river and had to be rescued in the river. And while she was going through the rescue, her mother passed away. She lived her entire life that she had killed her mother, and it changed how she dealt with everybody. So these traumatic experiences, it's such an amazing thing to listen to you and hear you, that the work that you've done, because it's work that you've done. I mean, let's be straight, you've done a lot of work. And to be able to add some objectivity to that and go, that was a story you told yourself that's not true, and I'm here and I got you. And I think it's so brilliant. It's just so amazing. It's an amazing
and
story.
It's so relatable because, one, nobody is without a mask, and it doesn't apply to just limitations, even our successes. We are who we are because we're the sum total of our experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. So when you talk about, and I've never heard the term shadow work until today, but the concept I'm very familiar with, because we are who we are for a reason. So when you do two things, figure out who you are, but then go back to find out why, there's obviously a line of demarcation that's when this took place. And in some cases, for some people, there may be more of a series of events as opposed to one, where there's things that gradually take place. But nobody can refute the value in finding out which one applies and who you are. That's the stuff that we talk about all the time in terms of raising your consciousness.
Right. Yeah. I think it's like everything's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is perspective. So, like, old me, masked me, was like, ugh, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? Why can't I have that life or this life? Or why is she so lucky in situations? Now I'm like, what does this have to teach me? Yeah. What can I learn from this? And when you pivot that narrative, it's okay. Like, it literally makes every situation go, well, okay, I'll take this. I'll change my perspective of it. And I won't make it a woe is me situation. I'll make it a, oh my God, I get to expand more. And
you ever say you transition from woe is me to wow is me, right?
Wow is me. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I mean,
that's so cool.
The kookiest, wackiest, most, I wish that didn't happen. Now is like, well, looks like it happened. What wonderful things am I going to get from this?
Right.
Even if it's the darkest of moments, but like, I'm going to switch it into a wow, not a moment.
Yeah, it's happening for you, not to you. Most of us are like, this happened to me. Like I'm a victim of what's happening around me, not a participant in this situation. You said something which I would love to hear you go. First of all, I love this conversation because it's like so on an evolutionary scale. Like this is like everybody, like we're on a journey. And sometimes people just live their life. They live life paycheck to paycheck. They're just going through the motions, not realizing that they're actually on a path. And this conversation is all about what the path is and how the path looks and how you can actually turn it into a path to some sort of growth. You said something which I would love to hear your explanation of, because the whole idea of a people pleaser being a form of manipulation. Can you talk about that? Because that's deep. That's shit. That's powerful.
Yeah, that was a slap in the face when I can't remember. I wish I could give credit to the person who I read it from or the YouTube video. But we go through life people pleasing, the people pleasers of the community. And we think, yes, I can do that for you. I would love to do that for you. Let me help you with this. It's when you're doing it, you think, oh, I'm doing it for you because I love you so much. I want to give you so much. I want you to be so content with this. But in reality, I'm doing it not so you'll be better off, but so you'll look at me and I will be seen as perfect.
Yeah,
I will be seen as the one that saved the day. Oh, I've come in and I've fixed this situation and this, and I've boasted about it, and please give me those positive accolades. And that's not the right reason that we should be doing things. Like, and I did that. I was like, oh yes, I saved the day. I helped you and I helped you. And does everybody see? Does everyone see? I did all these wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
That's not integrity. It's manipulating you to think that I am this just amazing person. And really, I just need you to think that I'm this amazing person and then tell me I'm that. When I heard that, when I realized that, I was like, well, I am that person. I am that manipulator, and which pivoted the whole thing. And I was like, oh, I'm my mother for 5 minutes because my mother would do that. And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not doing this.
Because it comes from a place of inauthenticity, right? And lack of integrity, right? You're not being authentic if you're doing something because you think it's going to make somebody else a lot better when it's really just making you feel better.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, well, no. So now if I do something, nobody will know about it. Like that's integrity. If I want to help somebody, keep it on the down low. Nobody needs to know about it. I want to do it from a place of want, not a place of
gain,
recognition.
Yeah.
Or that's
well,
I want it to be true to me.
The thing is, it's as insidious as it is inauthentic too. And anybody listening needs to acknowledge that too, because, one, don't think, oh my gosh, so I shouldn't be nice to people, nor should you think that a finger is being pointed at you, because it's so insidious that it's hard to realize that that's the reason why you're doing it to begin with. And then it's equally, if not more difficult to catch the results and the fallout from it, because it's not something that comes running at you at once. It's very gradual, and it's something that'll take place over a period of time.
Yeah, it's so true. Like to be true to yourself is to do just that. Just be you and live authentically you, unapologetically you, with no regard to if anybody is going to notice you on a Monday, or whether I get no views on social media, or if no one buys this book. Like, I do it for me.
Yeah.
And that's enough. Ironically, that is enough.
That's such a powerful place to come from. And I mean, just gonna.
I think I think there's a battle in there too, and now you've got me looking within myself, having a conversation with me that's sitting here, because like when it comes to, and Brian, we've talked about this, when it comes to accolades or anything like that, getting them on social media for one is a little less like right in front of you, right? And it used to be that if I got something like that from a crowd, like at an event or something like that, I'd have this battle within myself, which is, what I wouldn't mind being recognized for something. And then when you are, it's kind of like, wait a minute, now this feels a little uncomfortable. And then if I post anything about goodwill or anything like that, I have to acknowledge that there's part of me that feels good when people say things, but I've evolved enough to the point where what I really hope is that somebody sees it and goes, huh, maybe I should do something like that. And so it's like, do you share it? Do you not? It can kind of be, a thin line. So I guess the one thing that's worth doing is arriving at the conclusion as to exactly why you're doing it too.
Yeah, I think that, the biggest compliments are, hey, you wrote a book. Like, can you tell me how? Like, what steps do I take? Yeah, absolutely. Let's straighten everybody's crown and let's all do it. Let's all share our story. Why not? Like, we don't have to all be on these pedestals. Like, I put my pants on the same way. I have a growly, grizzly voice when I wake up in the morning. We're all people. We're all spiritual beings having this human experience. And my gosh, we should be just like, hey, let's cheer each other on and do it together. It should be good.
Yeah, for sure. I was starting to say, as a fanboy, I've got, like I love watching your stuff on social media, and I have some favorites in here. Do you, in your book, you've written, and again, these are how would you describe them? They're moments of insight, and they're poems, and they're again thoughts on a certain subject. Do you have a favorite in here that you've written? I know Sake's asking you if you have a favorite child. Is there stands out?
I mean, obviously, You're You, which is what I titled the book.
Which, by the way, I've listed. You can't see it, but it's I've listed as my favorite. My bookmark that one's my favorite.
I love that one. That one, I don't know. It resonates. I mean, I wrote them all at different stages of my journey, and I mean, my journey, that makes it sound like, well, we've hit the end road, but it's a continual thing. Like every day is a journey, and it's amazing. You're You is probably one of my favorites. Journey. Journey's a good one. Okay. Yeah, that's a really loaded question there, Brian. Thanks for that one.
No, I know. I wanted to put you on the spot.
Appreciate you.
I'll tell you, some of those are, just the thank you, about being filled with gratitude, I think is a powerful thing, which I think is a good lesson for people to have. The one that says thank you. All the I am, which I talked about before. That is right. That's one that is that's an edgy one, because
that is an edgy one. That's one that will probably either get me kindly canceled from places, or people will go, oh, wow, like she took it to another level, kids. But yeah,
just for people to know that one is really about how God is in all of us. Right?
Absolutely. Like, I have these conversations with my daughter, and sometimes she'll go, "You're being ridiculous. Do you realize how ridiculous you sound?" And I'm like, that's great. That's great. All the people who imagined everything in the world, they sounded ridiculous too. And that's okay.
Good for you.
They made it work. So, but yeah, I mean, we as a family, we would go to church on holidays. We were not your Wednesday, Sunday people. We're down at grandma's, so let's hit grandma's church or grandpa's church. And it went from Methodist to Church of Christ. So it was like, you either hate Disney or you love everybody. There was no in between. I mean, it was very, and it never worked for me. It never worked for me, because in my mind, like, my God, like, loves everybody. literally thinks everybody's amazing. And if we were all created in like his vision, their vision, like how could I be ever bad or wrong or anything? And then they, they have this book that people read in church and it says God is in you. And I was like, well, absolutely. Then I am God at this point.
There you go.
But yeah, like how can that be wrong? If you lead with love, if you lead with truth and kindness, like isn't that what we're supposed to be doing and what we were taught at the very young age in Sunday schools?
Mm-hmm.
Like in my world, yes.
Yeah, I got this. I have a family friend that sends text messages. They usually consist of scripture and stuff like that. And on the bookshelf behind me, there's more than one Bible. There's more than one Quran. There's a Book of Mormon, and I bought none of those. So I'm more spiritual than I am religious. I haven't arrived at exactly who hears me when we pray, but I like to believe that things happen for a reason. So during our recording here, I got this text, and it's an image of a flower, and it's got petals on it, and the petals say chosen, John 15:16, lovely, Daniel 12:3, unique, Psalm 139:13, special, Ephesians 2:10, precious, Corinthians 6:20, and strong, Psalm 18:35. And underneath it, it says, God says you are.
Exactly.
Bam.
There it is. There it is. Mic drop. There.
Yeah.
And for those that are listening that think that, it's like I posted something the other day. I'll repost it. I can't take credit for it. There was this blind girl I started following. She must be maybe 13 years old. And she goes, hello, everyone. I'd like to say a prayer for you. And she gives a prayer. And it's decidedly Christian. It's biblical. And I made sure that I put in it, like, you don't need to be a follower of Christ. You don't need to be you can actually even be an atheist and still get the value that this brings. This is a child who lacks sight. But if you think of why she's doing what she's doing, she probably has more vision than most people that are looking at this post.
For sure.
Just the idea of wishing the very best for any and everyone, immeasurable in value.
That's what it's all about. If it's done out of love, then it's got to be good. It's got to be good.
Yeah.
Well, when we end the show, I tend to say every show that, empathy and love is what makes us go round. And if we look through the world through the lenses of love, the world's a better place. So
it is.
We're on the same wavelength. So more books coming?
Yes, more books are coming. I'm writing. I'm halfway done with book 2. I've started a quarter of book 3, which is different than book 1 and 2. So yeah, I'm still writing. I think I will always write. It's my therapy.
Yeah.
It's my journey. And yeah, it makes my heart go, okay, we've worked through that moment, or we faced that moment. And if somebody reading it can go, oh, I can do this. I can face my moments.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm gonna keep writing.
Tell a little bit about the process, because we've had several guests on that have written books, and we're in an age where people
like doing a book tour. We've had quite a few.
Yeah, we're gonna start a book club, and we know there are people that are listening that have books within them, have no idea how to get it out. Did you self-publish, and then how did you go from thought to actually publishing the book and having it available on Amazon?
I took all my writings and I literally just added them to a Google Doc, which took an act of fortitude because I'm not a writer in that sense. I'm a pencil, paper, list maker, sticky notes everywhere writer. Mm-hmm. I got the reassurance from my dad that catapulted it into, I can do this. Like, why can't I? If I thought it, I can do it, right? For from there, a really good friend of mine who he had published, he published a book of poetry, and I literally sent him a message and I said, I have a book. And he pointed me, he was like, go to this gentleman. He will help you format it, because I was trying to format it myself. And again, that's like me trying to go out there and build the Taj Mahal.
Right.
I'm not a formatter. And I'm trying to like get on this KDP Amazon, upload pictures and make it fit into these spaces that, you know, I can't do math, and I'm okay with that. It's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I can't make it fit. He pointed me to a direction. Okay, contact this girl or these people on this website. They will help you format everything. I got my book formatted. I got the cover done. The whole turnaround process took less than a week.
Gee.
It was mind blowing. And I thought it was so funny because I think it was right after Christmas that I was like, I have to do this. I have to do this. I thought I was having a health situation. And then I was like, well, I've got to do this just in case something goes, you know, wonky doodle. And I was holding in my hand my book within 2 weeks. And it was the most surreal, like incredible feeling. Anybody can do it. Anybody is encouraged to do it. Everybody has a story and somebody wants to hear it.
That's fantastic.
That, I think, is literally the message of the day. Everybody has a story, and people want to hear it.
Yeah.
Sean, this is such a great time. Like, and the timing of this is so amazing. So, Liz, we're going to spring something on you. Usually we tell guests ahead of time, but we didn't today.
You're built for it. That's why.
You are. That's exactly what I was thinking too. So we're going to ask you,
Yeah.
Sean's going to ask you a question, and then I'm dying to hear your answer.
Well, this is the portion of the show where we usually will ask the following. Our ability to change the world is based on our ability or our willingness to change ourselves. So with that said, give us just one example of a thought or a belief that you once felt or believed strongly, but no longer believe to be true.
A belief that I felt, but no longer believe to be true. I used to believe that situations, that circumstances in my life, I had absolutely no control over. That things, instances were happening to me. Now, I have control of how I perceive those things, and I can change the narrative. I can change my reality into not being, you know, a bad situation or a negative situation. And I can literally create my own reality into something magical and mystical. And if I can think it up, I can do it.
That's fantastic.
I knew it was going to be easy for you.
Yeah. and that's essentially
thought of evolution, right? It requires, you to think like, oh, I don't know if I really believe that. I don't believe, but you're on this path. So I'm sure that's one answer. You probably could come up with a number of answers for that.
I could talk about this.
And that's exactly why I said, give us just one example. And for people that hear that and go, I don't know if I could do that. There isn't any wrong answer. First, you accept where you are, right? In order to evolve. You can't do that if you're not honest about that. And when we asked the question, and I didn't say this to you because I knew it wasn't necessary, I'll tell people, look, if the answer is that I used to like pepperoni and I don't, maybe it means you're not as evolved, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be deep. And if the answer is I believe everything I've always believed, again, there's room for evolution. Nothing wrong with that, at all. So essentially, it's not about what happens to us, but the value that we put upon those things that take place. That determines how we react with any and everything in life.
Did you watch my TikTok this morning? Because that's funny. Yeah, that's literally what I was talking about, that stop putting limitations on yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We want this and that, and we think it and we feel it and we like crave it so much. And then we go, well, I don't deserve it. Change it. Change that narrative. Yeah, you deserve it. If you can think it, you deserve it. So be open to it.
Definitely.
This is like going to church on Sunday morning, right? This is like life lessons in a shot here. To be fair, for anybody who's catching this, we're recording this on a Sunday, so it's all perfect. We're in that spiritual vibe. But I feel like spirituality with you it's a daily thing. So
much so.
What day of the week it is. This has been great. I'm gonna ask you just one last thing, and then we'll sign off. If you could, and then you have left with so many diamonds in this conversation today. So many. If you could say one thing as we wrap this episode up, one thing for people to kind of chew on and think about, and feel, what would that be? What would your sign off be? If you were to. Again, we're springing this on you. I know.
One thing, to literally love who you are. There's no one else that will ever come close to being you. You're the only one who lives with you 24/7, who feels with you. And embrace that part of you and fall in love with yourself. You're you. That would be it.
Fantastic.
That's beautiful. What a great way to spend the day on a Sunday morning. I love it. So I'm in this mode here. I'm going to wrap up as we wrap up the show. A couple of things. First of all, the great thing about this conversation is we just had our a 1 hour call with dads of special needs children or caregivers, and it's called The Den. We meet every 2 weeks on a Sunday over Zoom, and we have dads from all over. Dads are rarely in that conversation for special needs kids. We all wrapped up in our own mishigas, as we say. So it's nice to have a place where dads can kind of get together and feel they're part of a community. So if people are interested in joining our dads group, we'll put the Google Doc that you can sign up. It's free to sign up. And Billy Footwear, who again always big sponsors, fans of our shows, and reach out to Billy Footwear, adaptive footwear for folks. I want to thank Sean Hall in Hawaii for all the work that you do to help and support us. And for everybody listening on podcasts, really, we thank you for making us part of your family. Liz, this is a great way to end. I guess we're starting the month of March in the year 2024. Again, episode 160 something rather. Thank you for being a part of this. As I always say to end the show, and I said this already, empathy and love. You never know what somebody's going through, and so have some empathy. Don't be judgmental. You don't know what a parent's dealing with if a child's having a meltdown or some other issues. So be empathetic. And if you look at the world through the lenses of love, as I say all the time, the world is just a better place. If you want to reach out to us, Sean, you can give the email address when you sign off. But I'm going to say just personally, Liz, thank you for doing this. And I'm going to throw it to Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for the time. It was, again, greatly spent, deeply appreciative. Remember, questions are so much more powerful than statements. We should do our best to be a little more childlike and a little less childish. We come into this world as close to perfect as most of us are ever going to be. And to any and everyone within the sound of my voice, thank you for tuning in. And we love you.
Love you. Get the book. It's now available on Amazon. You're You, Dama Elizabeth. Sorry, Dama Elizabeth. I'll get it right. It's her nom de plume. Get it on Amazon. And it'll be a book that you will go back to many, many, many times. So thanks for joining us. Love you. Thank you for being here. And
thank you.